If you want a road bike with more comfort, you need an endurance road bike. But which one to choose? The brand new Specialized Roubaix, perhaps? Or the new Canyon Endurace? Or how about the new Giant Defy? And if you're wondering where the new Trek Domani is, well, I asked them for one, but they didn't send me one. So I'm going to test what I'm sent. So to help you decide which is the right bike for you, I'm going to test each bike across a series of challenges. We'll go through frame design, weight, tyre clearance, key features, and of course ride quality. But let's start with price. The new Canyon Endurace starts from about £2,000, the new Giant Defy from £2,300, and the Specialized Roubaix from £2,500. But when you test like for like with the same group sets, the Giant Defy actually comes out best on paper. And if you're thinking it's a bit unfair to test a mid-range Specialized Roubaix with SRAM rival against two top-of-the-range bikes from Canyon and Giant, I'm not actually testing the specifications here, but the entire range of bikes, the frame features, the ride quality, and other details. And in the interest of fairness, I rode each bike with the same MV wheels and tyres to rule out that variable. The main reason for choosing an endurance bike is of course comfort. So let's compare the key features on each of these bikes, starting with tyre clearance. So the Canyon Endurace is bottom of the table with space for up to a 35mm wide tyre. Next comes the Giant with space for a 38, but king of the class is a new Roubaix with space for 40mm wide tyres. While the Canyon is fitted with just 30mm wide tyres, the Giant and Specialized both get wider 32mm tyres, and wider tyres are better for comfort and traction, and they're all tubeless ready as well. And if you want the bigger tyres, then the Specialized Roubaix is one to go for. Next comes the frame design. What can you do to offer a smooth ride above and beyond just wide tyres? Well, the Giant has a D-Fuse technology, D-shaped components for the seat post and the handlebar to give more compliance. Next up, we have the Canyon with a really nifty split seat post that works extremely well, but nothing elsewhere on the frame, and an aero one-piece carbon handlebar and stem. But then we come to the Roubaix, which of course, we all know it, has a Future Shock, a really nifty spring inside the head tube that gives 20mm of up and down movement to isolate the upper body from all the vibrations and impacts that come through the front of the bike and to the handlebars. There's just no denying the impact the Future Shock has on a rough road. It really does work extremely well. And there's just enough compliance from the seat post to give good saddle comfort as well. So if you want maximum comfort from wide tyres and frame features, for me the Specialized Roubaix is the winner. Right, let's look at the design of each bike, and it's really interesting just how different they all are despite trying to achieve the same goals. Both the Giant and the Canyon look really sporty and racy and aero compared to the Specialized Roubaix. And the handlebar differences are really intriguing as well. So with the Giant, we have a two-piece handlebar and stem using their overdrive steering tube, so full internal cable routing, and the same on the Canyon with a one-piece handlebar and stem and full integration of the cables and hoses, while on the Specialized we have a normal handlebar and stem and external cables. And there are of course upsides and downsides to each approach. Now with the Specialized, you can change the stem for a shorter or longer one, or a different handlebar. That's all cool, but you do have external cables, which some people might say is old-fashioned in 2023. Now I could be wrong, but I don't think most people want or need a one-piece bar and stem on an endurance bike. Yes, you can adjust the width on this new handlebar, but you can't adjust the stem length. So if it's too long or too short, you're scuppered. This is of course the CFR model at the top of the range, all bells and all whistles, so worth taking that into account. And then with the Giant Defy, we also have full integration, but we have a two-piece bar and stem, so you can more easily change the handlebar or the stem length, but only if it's a Giant branded one. Another factor to consider is these bikes are likely to be used year-round for riding through the winter when it's dark, for commuting as well. So both the Giant and the Specialized Roubaix have mudguard or fender mounts, which is a great thing because as you can see right now, it's raining. So why the Canyon has no mudguard mounts, I have no idea. Another detail worth mentioning is with the normal handlebar on the Roubaix, you fit a computer mount, the lights, it's all fine. With the Giant, you get a computer mount that fits on the stem, and the handlebar mostly has a round shape for fitting lights just there, while with the Canyon, you have to use their own computer mount, which goes underneath the stem, but there's no way to fit lights because the handlebar just isn't accepting of a normal light bracket. So for that sort of practical commuting, all-axing, long distance riding, the Specialized Roubaix is probably an easier bike to set up with lights and other accessories. There are some other features that set them all apart. The Specialized has mounts on the top tube for an extra bag, which are cool for long rides, and a third bottle cage mount as well. The Canyon has no extra mounts, no mudguard mounts, which is a big fail, but we do have this top tube storage for your tools and spares, which is kind of cool. I like the idea of that, and a small saddlebag for the inner tube there. But it does mean you have a plastic flap on your very sleek carbon endurance bike. So for me, it's a no. I'm not sure I like that. And then the Giant Defy, we have mudguard mounts, but that's it. That's a lot. No top tube mounts, no third bottle cage mount, very much stripped back. So for versatility and practical features, the Specialized Roubaix wins, unless the top tube storage is a winning factor for you, or you don't want mounts, then choose the Giant Defy. Geometry is a key factor of an endurance bike and affects how the bike handles and rides, and also how it fits you or you fit the bike. And generally, they're more laid back and relaxed than a race bike, with a shorter reach to the handlebars and a higher stack, so the front is higher and closer to your body. The Roubaix has the tallest stack of the three bikes here, while the Giant is the lowest. The Roubaix is also the longest bike, both in terms of reach and wheelbase. The Canyon, meanwhile, has a shorter reach and a wheelbase length that doesn't look out of place on a race bike. When it comes to fork trail, which influences how fast or slow the steering is, the Canyon is the longest and the Roubaix the shortest, but there's only 4mm of difference between the three bikes. If you're buying an endurance bike, you're probably not concerned about weight, but if you are, let's look at the weight differences between the three bikes anyway. This top of the range Canyon Endurace CFR is 7.3 kilos on my scales for a size medium. This Giant Defy has the lightest frame of the three bikes here, and also the lightest complete bike weight, weighing 7 kilos on my scales, which is very, very impressive for an endurance bike. And then the Specialized Roubaix in SRAM Red build is 7.3 kilos, but this bike here, a SRAM rival, is about a kilo heavier. But weight, as we know, isn't everything, it's how you ride. So I'll get changed, we'll go for a spin and talk about ride quality, performance and handling. Right, let's start with the Specialized Roubaix then, and straight away you notice how high the handlebars are. This bike has the most relaxed fit of all the bikes in the video. So nice high handlebar position. It's great for banging out big rides without doing your back in. So very relaxed, not as sporty or aggressive as the other two bikes, but you could swap the hover handlebar for a lower handlebar and get a slightly lower, more aggressive stance. But it's definitely the more upright of the three bikes in the video. That's a real takeaway. And then of course we had the Future Shock. Still works really well. You got the wide tyres, 32 on this bike, helping out with the small bumps, and then the spring helping out with bigger impacts, potholes and cracks in the road. And it's a combination of pairing that works really well together and delivers the best comfort through the handlebar of the three bikes in the video. And now you can tune the spring rate as well, so you can put a lighter or heavier spring in. I put the lighter spring in and give me a more compliant feel than the stock setup. On this lower level model, there's no adjustment dial on the top, which you get on the higher end models. But personally, even on that top end model, I leave it open all the time because you want maximum comfort all the time. And even with smooth roads, even when you're climbing out of a saddle, it's not bobbing around. It doesn't do that. It's not suspension like on a mountain bike. It's not robbing you of energy or efficiency. So leave it open all the time and benefit from the comfort it offers. Both the Giant and Specialized have the wider tyres, and this shows on my rough road. The Specialized Mondo tyres in particular have an amazing ability to deliver traction in the most horrid and wet conditions, and are my pick for the tyres on the three bikes here. Okay, let's see how the Giant Defy compares. And straight away, it feels a lot sportier than the Roubaix. The handlebars are quite a bit lower and it just feels faster. And even with the same wheels and tyres on both bikes, the difference is still clear. And what Defy does is make a mockery of the idea that endurance bikes are slow and lazy, because this bike is definitely not slow and lazy. It's fast, dynamic and very exciting and a lot of fun to ride. And it is like a softer, more dialed back version of the TCR too. Longer wheelbase, slacker angles, bigger tyres, and it just makes riding a long distance at a reasonable speed much easier and more enjoyable, I have to say, than my TCR, much as I love that bike. But on the downside, the comfort is nowhere near as good as a Roubaix. It's a much firmer ride, smoother than a race bike, but definitely not as comfy or plush as a Roubaix, even with the same width tyres. I do think the carbon spoke wheels lead to a slightly firmer ride, and with the MVs on, it's slightly smoother, so that is a factor. But there's no extra features in the frame like we have on the Roubaix, so definitely a firmer, harder ride. Not harsh, but definitely harder. And then to the Canyon Endurace, and it sits somewhere between the Roubaix and the Defy in my testing. As I said in my review, it's trying really hard to be a race bike with deep wheels and that carbon area handlebar and stem, but the geometry quite compact, and I found I was the most cramped of all the three bikes. And the one bike I definitely wanted a longer stem, but doing that is really tricky, requires a whole new handlebar assembly. But it is a fast bike, and in the right hands it's probably the fastest bike here, although I think the Giant would nip it really, really close. Comfort in the saddle is fantastic, probably the best here, really, really close to the Roubaix, but just edged it for outright comfort in the saddle. But unfortunately, we had quite a stiff, firm front end, so we really missed a trick to give the Canyon a nice, smooth front end to match the saddle comfort. It's nice to get branded parts, tyres, wheels, saddle as well, and it feels more premium as a result. But it's a real shame there's no mudguard mount, and max tyre clearance is not in the same league as the two other bikes. These are three very smooth and fast endurance bikes then. Granted, the Canyon and Giant are flattered by high-end equipment, but even on the same wheels and tyres, the Specialized doesn't have the same sparkle when it comes to acceleration. But against the clock and power meter, there is very little to separate when it comes to speed and performance, except on the climbs where the Canyon is hamstrung by big race gears compared to the easier gear ratios on both the Giant and Specialized, which are a blessing on the hills. Each bike displays great handling and definitely more sure-footed and laid back than a race bike. The Canyon loves rapid direction changes thanks to its short wheelbase, but the steering is plenty stable enough to keep your confidence high. But there's also the one bike here that has me pondering whether I should be in the ultimate race bike instead. The Giant and Specialized offer more precise turning reactions, but are more stable in a straight line and at higher speeds. Despite not being a raciest bike here, on a long distance ride, the Specialized is super easy to live with and a very well-rounded package. So an interesting three-way comparison. Where does it leave us? Well, this is really tough. They are all so good. But if you want best comfort, I think choose the Specialized Roubaix. If you want the best speed and performance, choose the Canyon Endurace. And if you want best value for money, I would say choose the Giant Defy. And the best all-rounder, the best balance of speed, comfort and value for money, then I think the Giant Defy is a winner of this test. But let me know what you think by leaving a comment down below. Do you agree with my findings from this three bike comparison? Love to hear your thoughts as always. I'll put links to all these bikes down below in the description if you want to find out more about each one. But that is all today. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy watching this video. I plan to do more group tests like these, so let me know what bikes you want to see me do in a shootout comparison in this style. Anyway, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again very soon.